Okay, hi. This is hopefully our last installment on this. Uh, I started working on this part of this iris. So you can see the difference between what I've done here and the area that's not been touched. The masking is pulled up, but the other work in here to make it look more natural has not been done. So I did that up here, not there. So I guess now that I've talked about that, that's what I should do first. So I've got my lifting brush. And by the way, I used Quinn Purple, and I probably will not use it in the future for something like this. It was difficult going down, and it was more difficult coming up. So it really grabs the paper. There's something in it that it has a drying effect, which I don't get that like with the rose. And I assume probably not as much with that in-between one. What do they call that? Not purple, but can't think of it. Okay, look. I'm lifting and I'm going to pull inward this way. But because this purple doesn't come up very easily, by the time I make a couple of strokes, I've got purplish water going here, which actually works out. You see that? Now when I blot it, I've got a lightened area there, and I've got a little bit of purple on the white part, which we need. We want this to look, we don't want it to look like that. So I'm trying to soften that edge, and it's not softening quite as much as I would like. Okay, so that much blot. Don't let it sit there very long before you blot it, because it will go grab right back into that paper. This it would be a real good color if you're mixing something that you want to really stain. It'll also be just fine to work with when it's thinned out with a lot of water. But when you're trying to do a heavy concentration, it's really a little bit difficult to work with. Yeah, violet. Quinn Violet. And it's Quinn Violet's known to be very staining too, but I don't think it's quite this bad. So you see, this kind of thing just naturalizes the edges. And then if I come in, and I could use my lifting brush or just a regular brush, but I can pull, maybe I will use the lifting brush. I'm getting this very, very wet, so that I pull some color up over that white, and it'll look a lot more natural than if it's really, really bright. Some areas are in more shadow and they could be darker. There's a little light spot right here if you want to preserve that, and that would be nice. Just don't pull quite as much up right there. See, I blotted that, and in fact, maybe I won't even blot this. I'll just leave it like that. See, so that's naturalizing this. Now, when we get to the interior of the iris, we're looking at a little different situation. Now that I've seen this, I'm thinking that, now that I've seen it with the masking off, I'm probably going to gray this background down just a little bit more. But first thing we're going to do is put the center and some of the detail in the iris. My plan is not to put all the detail in the iris, is to keep it relatively simple. Having this pattern from the saran wrap, my plan was that it kind of has that crinkly, delicate look like an iris petal. You know, not all my ideas turn out to be good ones, as most of you know, but I think this is going to work out pretty nicely. Go ahead. That was Quinn Coral. You could use Quinn Pink, and some people I think have used Opera. And this is New Gamboge. And so I'm gonna pull this in close like this. See, that makes it a lot easier to look at. You know, you're not squirreling your head around this or that way. You're able to look right here. Now, we know that this little ditty right here is orange. It is really a pretty strong orange. And to get a really strong orange, I might just go ahead and mix a little bit more of that coral over here in a different spot. It's pretty strong. And I'm going to mix a little bit of Quinn Gold into it, because I can't do a painting without some Quinn Gold. It just can't happen. Okay. Now that's well, it's an orangey red. It depends how strong you put it on here. And if I use my brush like this, see, I can get some little fuzzy edges on it. There we go. There. Okay, and there's one. No, there's not one over there. Where else is one, though? We've got two. Here, here, and here. Okay. I can see it in my little drawing. It'll be a little bit easier to find our place, I think, once we've got the orange in. Okay. Now, I need to dry that before I go on. Oh, but one other thing. So, this little ditty right here, that is this thing, sort of, it needs a little bit of shape in it. So, I'm just going to take the lifting brush. I could have, and probably should have, done that two-stage like I did these, part of these, and left some highlights. That way would have been better. Nearly always, if you can leave something rather than lift, that's probably the better move. But I just want a little bit more shape in the thing. I don't even much care what kind of shape I put in it. Just some little things so it's part of it is just getting a little bit lighter area in some places, because that is so dark and heavy. And I like a good silhouette, but that's just really pretty flat. Okay, so now I'm going to dry this, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so that's dry. And let's pull this up here. Get them close together. Makes it a lot easier to deal with. So we've got a lot of hard edges here on the flower, you know, internally, and I plan to keep some of those hard and to soften a few of them. Let's just use a little of the pink, maybe a touch of New Gamboge in it. And let's just look. Okay, right there. That's a little darker in there. And my painting is a little darker than this. And I wanted it a little darker than this. I'm not positive that it's working out the best, though. So if yours isn't as dark as mine, that may be a good thing. Okay, so I'm going to come in like this and soften the edges on this. So see, I'm not entirely covering what I've already done. Nothing wrong with using a paper towel here too. Okay, we've got to have some areas darker than others for it to have shape. Okay, in here we've got this little area that's definitely darker. Does a little thing like that. I promise my idea is to keep this simple. I'm not going to get carried away here. That should have been light. Yeah, I definitely would have left that light if I'd seen it. Okay, let's just darken that little spot. Well, that's too dark, so let's give it a little blot. Ah, perfect. Okay, this whole area here should definitely be darker. See, I'm going a little pinker here. Down here I had a little more yellow in it. You could do those separately, you know, the yellow separate from the pink, and that would be a little bit, maybe a little bit prettier job. Okay. The fact is that I got involved in drawing poppies and got excited about it, and that's what I really want to do. Okay, let's see. Well, some of that didn't make sense anymore. I've got a shape there that where I have entirely lost what I was doing. Oh, you know why? Because, no, I don't know why either. Okay. I think there's a little shape like that. And over here, well, maybe this could get a little darker. Maybe it shouldn't. You know, I don't want to darken everything. I want to keep some of this really light. Oh, okay, I want to soften this edge right here. And so here's the thing. I may have messed, oops, got purple still in this. Man, I don't need purple down there. Okay, so yours may not look just like mine. You may have mistakes on yours. I certainly have mistakes on mine. There, I softened that edge. But the thing is that no one will ever know. If I didn't tell you, well, you might notice on this because you're trying to follow along with what I'm doing. But otherwise, you might not even notice that something's wrong. What is that little shape about? Oh, okay, there's a darker little spot inside here. I should be okay if this, if part of this isn't still wet, which it might be. Let's just soften that edge and that edge. And then let's come over here and darken and add a little edge there. Said I wasn't going to make this complicated, didn't I? There's always more to an iris than you expect. I think I'll darken this a little bit more. Now, I think that's close to being what I want. Oh, did I put color in here? It doesn't even look like it. Just going to put a little color in here. I just didn't want that hard edge where I had one. Okay, so the next thing is actually going to be to do, okay, that should be real, real, real light there, if I do anything there. Okay, you know, we need some color on this area right here. I again, colored something in light that I shouldn't have. We'll leave some of it like though. Let's not cover it all up, and let's see, a little more. Maybe about like that. Okay. So I'm going to dry this, and we're going to do a little bit of lifting up here to soften several edges, and then we'll see what we've got. Alrighty, here we are. So let's just soften a few edges. This edge right here, see, it's not anywhere near that harsh. So we're gonna weaken that a little bit. This should lift a whole lot easier than the purple. Well, I can't say that it's being totally cooperative. Okay. You know, I still don't have all the purple out of that lifting brush. Try to get that all out of there. Let's see, where else? Where else could we soften? You know, there's a little shape there that I don't have that I really like. And, white ink. I think that I'm going to fix that little shape. Well, listen, if your lid on your bottle is stuck, just do that for a little while and it'll all be fine. Okay, let's see. So I've got some little places up here. Could just soften that. This whole area up in there makes no sense, and I don't really care. I think I got mixed up and did this here and, oh, something there. Maybe I will put something in there. That looks kind of bad. You may not even have a place like that. Okay. This tip should get a lot darker. And it should start to blend into the purple a little bit. Let's see if we can pull a little of that purple right up over this. Oh, yeah, and we need some purple on that. I'm just touching in a little extra there. There's actually another shape under there that I lost. Okay, so remember how to make a water neutral brush. And I don't have to totally blend that out. I'm just touching several places. You know, I don't think that's dark enough. I'm going to pick up a little bit of this orange. Whoa, 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 whoa. I want the purple in here too. Okay, that's much better. Okay, that needed to happen. Definitely needed to happen. In fact, I think I'm going to use a little bit of that orange right there too. Just because I can get a little more depth with it. Now, I think this thing needs a little bit of shape to it. The caterpillar. Let's just lift a little bit in the middle. Just a little bit. Yeah, that's enough. Okay, let's see. Where else do I need to lift? I've got a shape there. This area right here. This should soften. Going that way. See, that can mean that you pull a little color down too, like this. You might just leave that. Just let it settle in. I need a little shadow right there, but it needs to dry first. And in the meanwhile, I think I'm doing something to that little ditty there too. That's too bright. So you see, you're just molding and shaping little bits here and there. You know, really don't like that orange edge at the bottom of this. I really want to lift. Let's see. Yeah, let's stop there. Okay, get all the purple out. So we'll come back to that one in a minute. So we got to do stuff up there too. Let's look at this one. This is a little bit easier one too. So I found that the orange was working nicely in some places. I'm going to start out with a little bit of orange here. Even though that's pink, I think that the orange is working better. Okay, so now I'm going to soften edges, a lot of edges here I'm going to soften. Not that one, not that one, but something like that. Oh yeah, yeah, that's working well. I like this better, even if it is the wrong color. And the reason this is working better for me is because I got this pretty dark. If you got yours this dark, then you may need orange. If not, go ahead and work with your coral or pink with New Gamboge instead. Okay. Da, 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 da. Kind of need a streak of shape coming down this way. And let's just break up a couple of spots and leave most of that there. Oh yeah, this is better than that. Now we need some darks in behind this little ditty right there. This hangs over the caterpillar. And I think for that, I think I'm going to go to working with pink. And I may change my mind. We'll see. Put it down and see if you like it. If you're putting it down really wet, it's not going to destroy everything if you don't like it. I think I'm getting in the flow of it. Okay, see, I'm just softening some edges and I'm leaving some areas because I'm working really pale right there. This area, I definitely want to use the pink here. This area is cooler. And I may need to merge it into the purple a little bit. Right now, let's just stick with the pink and see how it looks. Okay. That works. Just follow what you see. If you work really pale, you don't have to soften edges as much. If you work a little darker, then you may have some places that you have to work on. I don't know about that. That needs to be pinker, but I really didn't want it to be darker. I think what I'll do is I'll make it darker right here at the base, where it goes behind this other petal. And then I'll let it go light at the outside edge. This is kind of obscured by the saran wrap pattern. Okay, that's getting close. This one looks so much better than that. So obviously I'm going to have to do something more to the other one. But let's soften some edges on this. That's one of the problems with masking. It can make some pretty harsh areas. And I don't like to do tons of lifting. And it depends on what I'm doing. But for the most part, I think of lifting as a last-minute fix. Oh, that's not too bad. Just pull those in towards the center of the petal. Yeah, that could almost be a formula, just pour towards the center of the petal. Actually, I don't want to do much here. I think this is pretty good. Now this one, this needs to just not be that light. And so I think here we're not going to do any lifting. We're just going to put a pale wash in here. If that's, maybe just make that a hair lighter. I'm just sucking some up. See, that's about right. So you can also use that as a strategy, which I just didn't even talk about. An area like right here. So I could darken one area, and I could also put a little color on some of that white. But I don't want to get rid of all my white because we really kind of need some of that to make the picture pop. That's not too bad. I'm going to have to come back and do something more to that. I've got to add a little more depth in a couple of places. There. Oh, that one looks good that way. Okay, when it dries, it'll look better. And this area down here, I'm not going to do that on the video. I think you can see where that needs to go. Now, this little area right in under here is that kind of the, you know, the pod part or whatever you want to call it that the flower blooms out of. And I think we could just take some green. It would help if it was a little bit more of a brownish something. Well, if I put the green over this red that I've got on it, that kind of works. And then let's just pull that down. Okay, I'm going to work on the background a little bit, and then I'm going to come back and deepen a couple of areas here to try and put a little more life back in this, or a little more, take some of the confusion out. There's really a problem right in here. I got mixed up, obviously, and put masking where it didn't belong. And this is the back. There's the spine of the petal. And I've just turned it into nonsensical mush. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work my lifting brush in the direction that the ribs of the petal are going. That's not necessarily going to fix everything, but that'll start fixing it. That's why I need to turn this into a single petal, and right now it just looks like chopped liver. Okay. Or chopped something. I guess liver's the wrong color. And even as I said I was going to work on the background, I can't seem to get away from this because I've just seen an area where I want to put a little bit of tint in. Oh, that's too much tint. There. That's the right amount of tint. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I had a light spot there that I didn't make light, and I'm not going to try to scrub it out. Oh, I know. We have the life-saving potion. Okay, so I said I needed to do a place up here. And I'm going to, let's see, where was it? Where was I? Oh, yeah, right there. That light spot there really needs to be light. Okay. And then up here, oh, yeah. There's an edge to the side of the curl there. And then we'll forget what happens here. Now that usually isn't as strong as it looks like it's going to be. So if I want it real white, I'll have to go over it again. But maybe I'll decide that that's the way I want it to be right there. Okay, now I'm going to work on the background, and then I'm going to come back to this. So I happen to have a mixture here from a cowboy. And this was Quin Burnt Scarlet, Prussian Blue, and Quin Gold. And they're all kind of dirtied up with each other. Let's see. That might work. Let's see. Let's put a lot of water in here. What I want to do is I want to put see how pale that is? Now, yours might not need it. You know, you decide. That looks a little stronger than I had in mind. If I don't like it, I'll blot it here in a minute. And I'm planning on cropping it across here, by the way. And I think we could use a little gray on top of the greens. One of the things is the thing that I mailed out to you, I was having trouble with my printer, and my light gray, it's an 8-color printer, and my light gray was not printing when I thought it was. And my printer's quit stopping when one of the things doesn't work. It just keeps on printing. So what I'm doing here is I'm just going to pull the gray down over my greens. So here's the thing. If your greens get too bright, that's one thing that you could do. Now, see, that's making the flower pop out a little bit better. Because it was really kind of dying there. Not saying I have anything against dead flowers, but again, economy of strokes. Don't work this to death. Just put in just enough. And this, of course, is going to dry lighter. But I think that that's... In fact, I might wish it was that dark. So on this, I can turn it without it causing mistakes. There we go. Going to make a better painting out of it. See, it's still got that same soft color in the background that we had. It's just slightly muted. Just enough. It's kind of hard thinking of all the right things when there's no one here to ask me questions. So this is the Prussian Blue, but it's got a lot of the Quin Gold and the Quin Scarlet mixed into it to make it into a gray. It's kind of a bluish gray. Or maybe it's a neutral. I don't know. That side of it, it doesn't have any brown tone to it. I really didn't want to go brown here. Okay. Oh yeah, that's so much better. See, that's just one possible solution with how to work with this. And let's face it, I had the stuff there already. So it just seemed like the most natural thing to try it. Don't be afraid to gray some things down sometimes if you need them to just go into the background. There's all kinds of ways to gray things down. You wouldn't have to do a gray mixture. You might just use a color that's, you know, opposite what you're doing on the what you have down on the color wheel, and that'll gray it. But this sort of worked. Oh yeah, that's way better. Okay. I think I can work on this without going to the dryer. So I need a little bit more motion going this way. Just a tiny bit more. So I'm using these colors. Okay, there's the New Gamboge and the coral. Just want to pull that up along where the spine is. I think I got a little more yellow in there than I wanted. Okay, now there was something else that had to be darker. We need that to pop out. Huh. I'm wondering if I can lift that a little bit instead. These are not lifting very well. If when you work really, really wet, which we did, remember the first layer of color that we put down was really wet. We laid a lot of water down and then color with it. That tends to make your color set in the picture more. I think I'm going to use a little bit of white ink on that too. Okay, I need to dry this. Okay, I got back from this. I put it on the easel while I had the thing turned off. And these whites really stand out. They're popping a lot. I think they pop a little too much. So that means that we can make these areas a little more nuanced. Now, if you worked lighter than I did in the first place, which I should have worked lighter myself, if you worked lighter and this area in here is lighter, they may be just right the way they are. You have to adjust for what you've got. So you just get it back and stand back and look at it. You want the whites to stand out to give it some life, but you don't want them to just scream. You know, there's a difference between standing out and screaming, right? So I want that to stand out, and I want this to be a little quieter. That could have been lighter here too. So it's not lifting very well, and that's why. It's because it had a really wet wash on it, and that made a difference in sort of washes the sizing out or washes the color down into it anyway. Okay, that's better there. This stands out better. Let's put a little bit of white ink on. And the thing, remember, your white ink won't necessarily be white when it's dried. It looks really bright going on, but it will be a lot duller when it dries. So you have to allow for that. Okay, I just want a little bit lighter area there. So if it looks just right when you put it on, it's going to look too weak later when it dries. If it looks a little too bright, then you're probably doing well. That looks about right to me, so it's wrong. Okay, there. That is better. This area could get a little softer. And you know, by softer, I mean, you can take just the tiniest bit of color, just float it on, and it might even be too strong. You can let it sit there a minute. See, that doesn't stand out enough. So I can let that sit there a few seconds, time goes by. And then, there, that's perfect. So all of this could have a little more color to it, a little more nuanced areas in it, in places, but you don't want to kill every last bit of white. You want some bits that are still, I think you do. You know, here's the thing, I don't know what you want. Do what makes you feel good when you look at it. Okay, there. Maybe I'll just make this a little bit softer there. Yeah. And that could be, see, I just barely changed that from stark white to a little less white. These areas right here just don't seem strong enough. I think I'm going to take the tiniest bit. Remember the gray? I'm going to put the tiniest bit of gray on top of this because I know that this will pull it back without having to make it a lot darker. Now that's still too much. Let's just I'm pressing harder. Okay. Alright. That little area right there is bothering me. And when you get towards the end of something, you can just spend a little time tweaking. That's my favorite thing. Well, it's not my favorite thing. I have a lot of favorite things. But I do like being near the end and just tweak. I think I'm going to use a little orange there. It's too bright. Put a little gray into that too. Okay. I think that's about right. Now over here, see, this needs some softening too. And you might just soften it with again, you know, a little of this pink and yellow. It just makes a real pale, warm pink, soft pink. I want to make that, I want to soften most of that, but I'll leave a few little bits of white. I might go over this. I think that's about right. Leave that. You know, sometimes you have to see it. What is it they say about pornography? You don't know how to describe it, but you know it when you see it. Well, painting's kind of like that too. Sometimes you just have to put something down and see if it looks right to you. And I know that's scary when you're working with watercolor because you think you can't fix it. But a lot of the time you can once you get some experience with it. Oh yeah, see, that's a lot better. It's quieter. You know, if this was all done, that might look pretty decent. I'm going to put it up on the easel again and see how it looks to me. I get about 10 or 12 feet back. Well, just when I think I have it all resolved, see, it isn't. Because this petal in front of these leaves is just screaming at us. It just, I wish I hadn't used that purple. This is just taking everything over. Oh! Okay, wait. I'm gonna take a chance here, and it may not work. I'm gonna put some white on this purple. This may be awful, and it will live on the internet forever. Or maybe I'll leave this segment off. And remember what I said about this. You can't tell what this is going to be. Now, some of the purple is coming up into my paint, which I actually want to have happen. A lot of the time, you can take a color that's really just killing dark, and you can add a little white into it, and some colors will actually perk up and look better and behave. It's just a few of them that do. I need more water there. Let's even that out a little bit. I don't know that that's going to work here. Oh, it may be that it is going to work here. Okay, let me get this dry and we'll take a look. Okay, let this be a lesson to you. Look at the color here. So when white has been added to this, you see how it has less red in it? And I'm okay with that, but you know, I could take some white and mix some red into it and layer it on here. I actually think that this is better. It just feels softer. I've laid it on here and got it streaky though. Let's see if I can even that out a little bit. So what I did there, I have to do on these because otherwise the hue's different anyway. So I think the best thing on this is to pre-wet the petal. Let's get a little white out here. And, you know, we're glazing white on here. There's a lot of the time when glazing white on a watercolor gives you something just really awful. I don't want you to start thinking of this as the answer to all problems. It's not. And I've got a lot of I think I'll do that, and I'll soak up a little bit of the white. I'm trying to get it to where it's not streaky, because if it looks streaky now, it looks streaky dry too. Okay. I do like that softness. I think it works better here. I've been kind of kicking myself over this purple from the beginning. Well, no, it wasn't from the beginning, but it was from last week. If I hadn't put it on as heavily or something. Yeah, that softness there is nice. This just felt like it was almost going to eat a hole right through the paper. It just felt so harsh. kind of have to work with this a little more than I like to normally work with my watercolors, but here, well, it's not going to ruin the effect of the watercolor here. It's kind of ruined anyway. This might make a painting yet. So we've got to put a little on this even. Even though that's not too strong, it's not going to be the same hue if we don't have some white, a little bit of white on it. And the fact is that some of my little white lines have gotten too weak, and I might have to put those back in with white watercolor. So I haven't lifted on that yet, so I'm not going to do that. But I think it's pretty obvious that what I need to do, you may not have gotten your purple on this heavy. You know, a lot of you paint lighter than I want you to. And, or I shouldn't say lighter than I want you to, lighter than I do. And that's not always a mistake. In fact, a lot of the time you do something that I really like when it's lighter than mine. Other times it just takes you a lot longer to get your nerve up. Just depends. Well, I think that's better. I would say the finish up on this might be whatever you think it needs, actually. This is definitely going to need some color over it. But I might very well, you know, I worked on this so much earlier that I might actually have to come add white lines back in here with the white ink. I think that these leaves are pretty nice and that this is maybe too weak. Although I like dark over light, I'm not sure that's going to work here. I just need to get back and look at it and think about it. But this is the basic technique, and pretty much, oh, there's a spot right there. Because this is, okay, I'm going to leave that a hard edge there and soften it this way. It's one of those overhanging parts of the petal. So I'm pretty happy with that part. I think a little more work and I could live with that. This needs a lot. I hope most of you didn't do what I did. I'm going to stop it right here. Yeah. So, not finished, but yeah, that could make a decent painting. Yeah, just needs a little more work. But I think you see what we need to do now.